Hi, I'm sorry that we're late. It was Neil's fault.
That's not true.
It wasn't Neil's fault. Uh, I'll explain. My name is Christy Hodges, and welcome to Fireside Fridays. Woo! This is kind of a new thing, but it's not a new thing because we've done Fireside Chats before. But we're new because we're back and we're revamping it, and it's really exciting. So my name is Christy Hodges. I'm the founder and executive director of OCD Gamechangers. I am the owner of Treatment for OCD. I had to think for a minute. Owner of Treatment for OCD Consulting, which does referral consultations and peer support consultations worldwide. I'm the founder of this book, or I'm sorry, I'm the writer of
the founder. I'm the founder.
I'm really excited and anxious, and I'll tell you all why in a little bit. But anyway, I'm the author of this book. I am also, we'll reveal our little project at the end. How about that? So it'll be like suspense about what's coming up. Anyway, and then today we're here to talk to Neil. So Neil, I'm going to have you introduce yourself.
Okay, hey everybody. My name is Neil Hemmer. I have my master's in social work. I have loads of lived experience with OCD and addiction, which I think is the topic today. Correct, Chrissy?
Yes. Gosh, I feel like you know what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm really trying to act like it. So yeah, I'm sure Chrissy would say like a billion things about me, but I am just a dude with a big heart. I love people. I love social work, and yeah, I have OCD, so I'm here to talk with you guys today about what I've been through. Yeah, and hopefully you guys can learn a thing or two, or maybe like half a thing, or a quarter of a thing would even be cool.
So Neil is an OCD advocate. So let's just put it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And a pretty big leader in the young adults with OCD. So he's participated several times here at Gamechangers, and also at other OCD conferences. He's led groups and done panel chats and stuff. So it's a pleasure to have you here. You special place in my heart. I originally told Neil we were going live at 5:30. And then I advertised that we were going live at 5.
Well, that's why somebody texted me and was like, "Are we missing your fireside chat right now? Where are you?" And I was like, "It's not till 5:30."
So it really was my fault because I messaged him at like 5 after, and I'm like, "Click on the link, let's go." And he's like, "Do I need to log on earlier?" I'm like, "Oh no, something happened." So I take full responsibility, but thank you for being here. And I'm sorry that we were late, but as what happened with the start of the Maverick Mondays or Monday Mavericks, Maggie was an hour late. The start of the Fireside Chats, we couldn't even log on with Phillipson. So this just seems to be OCD Gamechangers luck.
All right, sweet. Good. We're right on brand right now.
So anyway, today we're really excited to talk about this. I know that Neil and I are both really passionate about this topic. And what I wanted to say to you who are watching and then, maybe have been following the Fireside Chats, I created the Fireside Chats as a way to talk about what other people are going through during the COVID. Not that COVID is not a big deal anymore. And I know that, a lot of people are really concerned about it, and there's still a lot of stuff. Hey, Chance! Say hi to Chance. Do you remember him from OCD Gamechangers? Yay! Anyway, we wanted to pivot off of that because we did a lot of Fireside Chats about COVID, and now we wanted to pivot and start talking about more really crucial issues that are going on in our OCD community that don't get enough, hey, not alone notes, that don't get enough airtime. They don't get enough attention. They don't, and people really feel alone with these. So I'm really excited about this. We'll be doing them every other week, just like we do the Monday series. But look forward to bringing people on that are really passionate about topics that they do advocacy for. And Neil and I, we don't really dig in heavily in our poster child of OCD and addiction, but we do feel passionate about it, and we do like to talk about it. Don't be embarrassed, Chance. It's fine. We're glad you're here. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's just the entire internet, buddy. It's fine. It's all right. It's no big deal.
So we're gonna probably be on for about 30 minutes, and I just wanted to start with our lived experience. So Neil, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I was told this was totally open forum, and I've always told Christy that I hate this. The open forum thing.
ERP.
Yeah, because there's no structure whatsoever. But yeah, so well, first off, I want to say that I'm sorry for like one looking so weird and being so unprofessional right now and having weird lighting. But I'm at a lake house, and I totally forgot that I'd scheduled this with Chrissy today. So I'm coming to you live from a cool lake house on a Friday afternoon.
And he doesn't have somewhere to put his phone, which is why it's bouncing up and down. So those of you with emetophobia, I'm very sorry. Hi, Michelle. Thank you for being here.
Both messes. But if you've ever seen me speak before, this is kind of right on brand where I'm not prepared for anything. And I'm super anxious right now, so that's fine. Yeah,
I love it.
OCD and addiction. I started drinking when I was 13, actually 12, because that's when my symptoms first started really revving up. And I was desperate for anything to just feel okay, right? And I'm sure a lot of you understand the experience who have OCD also, of just anything and everything that will make you feel some sort of semblance of okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, is fine in the moment, right? But yeah, so I drank for 10 years very, very heavily. I've almost died a few times. I got arrested once for breaking and entering somewhere. Just a bunch of stupid things have happened in my life because of this. But I think if I knew earlier and had gotten treatment earlier, things would have been a lot easier, right? I am thankful for my experience and my journey with OCD and addiction because of all the things that it's taught me and all the life lessons that it's given me. But yeah, I mean, for years, I just thought this is kind of what people did, right? And I was just right along with all my friends drinking, but none of them have OCD. So, yeah. And then, by the way, this is super weird that we're talking about this today because this is my 4 months sober. This is 122 days sober today. I finally went to residential, not at only Chrissy's behest, but a lot of my very close friends approached me and just said, hey, man, like, we kind of want you to live. That would be nice. And it was kind of jarring for me, honestly, at the time, because I wasn't planning to live past 19. It's just not in a suicidal way at all, and not in a scary way. I don't think, especially with OCD, I wasn't thinking that I would even make it past 19, right? So when somebody told me, oh my gosh, I want you to live and I need you to be around for a long time, I was like, okay, screw it. Okay, going to residential. So I spent 23 days in residential. And
right after Gamechangers.
Right after Gamechangers, actually, yeah, I went to Gamechangers, and was still drinking like fish. And then, I went to residential and cleaned up my act. And I don't think I talk often enough about how powerful residential was for me. And I think I would implore everyone, even if they're on the fence about, oh, I'm not this bad or I'm not as bad as you or blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of comparison in the addiction community, right? Like, oh, I've never, smoked heroin, or like, oh my gosh, I've never like gotten a hooker and like snorted crack cocaine. That doesn't matter.
Or
right?
I've never gotten a DUI, or I've never not gone to work because I was drinking the night before. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, right. So, all those things, but it was monumental in my recovery, and just having the time to really explore myself and explore why I felt the need to drink was huge. And another big, huge thing was that I wasn't pushed. There was no, you have to go. There was no shame. There was no guilt. There was, we love you. And if you keep doing this to yourself, you're not going to live much longer. And so I said, okay, cool. And then about halfway through, and anyone who goes to residential, I don't know, I'm big on residential, but if you go to residential, even like when I went, I was like, I'm not going to quit drinking. I'm only going to residential to moderate because I want to get control of this. I was so stuck in this, I'm going to drink for the rest of my life. No one's going to stop me. And even if I go to residential, I'm not going to quit. I'm going just to moderate. And 2 weeks in, something clicked in my head. And I think this was the most important piece of why I'm sober today and will remain sober, is that I'm not stopping myself from drinking. I'm not saying to myself, I can't have that. I just don't want it. so many bad things have happened in my life because of drinking, and so many unhealthy things have happened in my body because of drinking, that I don't ever want to drink again. Like I'm here with my friends right now, and all 20 of my friends are drinking, but it doesn't faze me anymore. So yeah, that's like a snippet. If you guys want to like ask questions or something, you are like welcome to. I'm a totally open book.
I mean, I want to ask a question. I think that it's probably a common question that people get is, I don't want to ask the normal questions. I want to ask a little bit deeper. What is it like to, if that was your whole life, not that was your whole life, but that was your routine, that was part of your life, in what seemed to be a survival part of your life, a crucial part of being able to survive OCD and everything else that you've dealt with, right? So I think what people get scared of is, and yours truly included, is when I'm not drinking and then I have to join life, then I can't drink anymore. And I just don't want that, or I can't handle that. So describe your experience of what it was like coming out, making that choice, feeling okay about it, and now being around 23 of your friends at a lake house where beer is probably everywhere.
It is.
What is that like? And is it hard? Is it scary? Is it like, nah, no big deal?
So, okay, I guess I'll answer the last part first and just kind of work my way to the beginning. No, at
my
this
questions,
point,
they're more like novels.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they are. At this point, no, it's not scary, and I think that is kind of baffling for people. Like a lot of my best friends are super supportive. I mean, I think that's a crucial piece. That if you don't have supportive friends, get supportive friends. At least I don't know how old all of you are on the internet, but I'm too old to like have unsupportive friends. But all of my friends, my whole community around me is so deeply embedded in my recovery that it's weirder for them than it is for me, because they're like, oh my gosh, are you doing okay? Are you anxious? Are you comfortable? And I'm like, totally fine. But the way that this has worked for me is, one, super stubborn. I'm like the most stubborn person you'll ever meet in your life. Two, I'm super headstrong.
Super stoked or stoned?
Stubborn. I'm super stubborn.
I was like, did you just say I'm super stoned? I'm like, well, that's not helping.
I didn't know. Oh, it is legal in Illinois. So, no, I'm super stubborn, but I'm also super headstrong in the fact that I had to kind of tamper my own excitement, because right when I got out, I was like, once again, I was like, no, like I'm not changing my routine at all. I'm going to go do right the same things I've been doing, blah, blah, blah. I'll just do all of them soberly. I don't know how that would have worked out. I'm assuming it would have worked out super poorly, because I like held my horses back, and I like did a bunch of test runs before I got to this point. I like first, had my parents drink around me, or I had, even had them show me alcohol, right, to see if that, made me crave it or made me want to drink or blah, blah, blah. And then after that, I hung around I went to a dinner. I went to like a restaurant, and my friends were drinking around me, and like that was fine. And like then I went to a bonfire. Okay, and they were only drinking. These were like my light drinking friends. So they were only drinking beer. Okay, that seemed fine. I didn't want to drink. And now I'm around my regular friends, and they're taking shots and doing whatever people do when they drink. But yeah, it was definitely a buildup for me, and intentionally putting big roadblocks in place to make sure that I was doing it correctly. Mm-hmm. And then it was super scary coming out and being like, yeah, I'm never going to drink again. But once again, I think like mindset is like the most crucial thing, because it wasn't that like, if I had that mindset, because the first 2 weeks of residential, I had that mindset. I was like, I'm never going to be able to drink again. No way. That's crazy. Like that's the only thing I do. I'm not going to not drink again.
Yeah.
But once my mindset switched, I don't want to drink, and like this makes me feel bad. Like I just very quickly had to start like coming up with weird, like very cliche sober people activities that like people I think like make fun of. Like I've started baking a ton, and now I have a bunch of succulents out of nowhere.
Oh, okay, it is COVID too. Like,
Yeah, well,
by
I mean,
the way, for everybody, he went in right when the world shut down. He was in residential for the first like 20 something days, and then he came out and like the world was COVID. Could you imagine if they didn't have outside? You would come in and see like people in masks and like all the stores were closed, cars on fire.
I went in and it was all like a big joke. We were like, oh, there's like 2 people in Wuhan, China who like have this bad stuff. And then I like got out of residential and my mom's like, I can't hug you. And I was like, oh, that's awful. I told her that's not happening and I forced her to hug me, but you know. But yeah, no. So yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was mindset. And I really started getting deeply, deeply out of my comfort zone and like forcing myself to do things that I've wanted to do for a long time, but have always made me anxious. Like, I don't know, baking always seemed cool. Baking is cool. I like baked goods. Who doesn't, what monster doesn't like baked goods? So I started baking, but I was, sorry, that's kind of,
Some people might not like baked goods.
maybe I don't like baked goods. That's fine, guys. But yeah, but it made me super anxious to try all these new skills because I had no skills. Like drinking was the skill that I had.
Oh,
Right?
interesting. No, I love that. I think that's really important. I think that's an important point. Like, I didn't have...
For a second, I was like, what did I say that to make me be sarcastic?
No, like, I didn't have any skills because drinking was, so if you think about someone who, and this is something I need to evaluate in my own life too. Like, you know, when you are drinking, you are planning your life around drinking.
100%. Yeah.
And so that becomes the full focus. The full focus. And so when you're not, then it opens up that time. Oh God, the correlation right here to drinking and then also being in treatment for OCD. You know, when you're having OCD and all your time is taken up by compulsions. And then when you get treatment for OCD, it's like, boom, I have all the space. Now I know how to bake, or I'm going to try to bake. It's very, very similar. I really appreciate you sharing that. I think that's really incredible insight.
Yeah. And I think it was, and like, at first, and I think a couple of my friends like thought it was discouraging when I said I had no skills, but like I don't find it discouraging. I just think that like that's cool that I have all this space for new skills. Like I like knew how to play video games and like drink whiskey. That sucks. That's not cool. So like I mean the video games are cool, but I still play video games. But I was like, man, I want to bake and I want to like grow succulents, or like I want to be a better friend. I want to be a better son, you know, like things that I can really like divert my energy to.
Yeah,
was huge for me. And now I just have all the time in the world to be like, this is what I want to do with my life, and I can.
I love that. Oh, I totally was not making fun of you. I think that's a, no, I think that's really that's insight I think that can really help people because you know, and you know, just to quickly share, I don't want to take I'd rather you talk about your experience, but you know, I've struggled with substance use majority of my adult life. And and hi everybody who's here. Hi Sally and Jennifer, Margaret,
hi Margaret,
Carrie, Jacques. How do you say that? JACQUI. Jackie. He's from Sydney. So you know what? It's actually like tomorrow where he is. How's Saturday? He is joining us on Saturday. Anyway, so my experience, you know, and you know, Jennifer had a question like when you were 12 and 13. Jackie. Hi, Jackie. Jackie's in Saturday. Jennifer has a question. When you were 12 and 13 and started drinking to cope, did you know you had OCD? So I just want to briefly touch on that from my experience. I did not drink at all in my teenage years. You know, like people start drinking when they're teenagers because everybody's doing it. Well, I didn't drink because of scrupulosity. I was scared to. I thought that God would punish me. I had to try to be the best person I could because if I did anything bad, he would punish me with the bad thoughts. So I was very into being straight-laced. And then once I got diagnosed with OCD and treated, I was like, fuck that, watch this. And in all honesty, like at first, especially, I wanted to test it. Like, is this really OCD? So let me start doing things bad
Yeah.
that was in my mind, like sinful. Like back then, I was 20 then, people, or 21. Don't judge. But I did it to see if it would impact my thoughts, to kind of prove whether I had OCD, classic compulsions.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, then after that, after I got treatment, I drank on it, on and off in my 20s, but then it just got really, really bad in my late 20s, all through my 30s, and still even into my 40s. I'm just being transparent. Like, I do really well when I do harm reduction, but the problem is committing to harm reduction, because they're so, and yes, it's trauma. Yes, it's things that have happened in my life, but when things get stressful, it is like the routine piece of, I just need to be numb. I can't handle this, which of course I can handle it. I've handled shit for 40 years now.
Right.
But again, like, I think when I do get in the habit of practicing harm reduction, and harm reduction is a way to approach substance use. Now, I will say that there are people that cannot do harm reduction. There are people that, that need to get treatment, that need to practice sobriety. And that's how it needs to be.
100%.
Jackie actually just said food is his. And I think that's a really good, it's really good to mention that it's not just alcohol, it's drugs, it's food, it's sex, it's porn. Porn, especially when it comes to OCD and sexual intrusive thoughts. And when I commit to harm reduction, I am so good at it. Because you know why? It's just making the decision and going, I'm going to do this, and this is how it's going to be. If I don't commit to it, then I can't handle it without. And so, back to kind of the question, for me, I started drinking. I did know I had OCD, but I did it intentionally, I guess, to test it. But then the aftermath was the coping mechanism of the trauma I experienced, not only in stuff in my childhood and my teenage years and into my 20s, but to cope with the trauma of living with OCD, undiagnosed, untreated for so long. What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, so I actually don't remember if it was right after or like right before I got diagnosed. But so I got diagnosed at 13. And I can't remember if it was like right before. I know when it was. I drank the summer 8th grade when I was 13. But I can't remember if I had already been diagnosed by that point or not. Either way, I was so early in therapy and in the diagnosis, I had no healthy coping mechanisms like built up at that point. So yeah, I mean, I just turned to drinking because at that point, and especially with the duality of OCD, like I'm having a big brain fart, but the similarities between OCD and addiction are crazy because, right, like we do compulsions because it's that immediate gratification. Like the delayed gratification is, you do the exposures and you wait, and you do exposures more, and like eventually, right, it does get better. But like right then and there, I like needed to drink to calm my mind.
Right? It's the urgency. It's the right now or else.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
So Neil and I just want to bring this up, and then I also really want to take some time, especially in the last 10 or so minutes, to really normalize this for people. This topic is not talked about enough in the OCD community, and it's really unfortunate that people are not willing to address this in public forums and in places where people really need to feel like they aren't alone. Neil and myself and Genevieve and Sarah Sisson did a panel on lived experience at an OCD conference a few years ago, and the sole purpose of the panel was just to relay to people that we have struggled, kind of why we've struggled, that this is common, and we were not in any way giving any advice on what you should do, what you you must do or anything. And we all four were very vulnerable. It was the first time we'd ever talked out loud about this to a group of people. And when we got finished, we got slaughtered. People stood up and said that we were awful to not promote sobriety and we're horrible people. And how could, it was horrific. Like I had an actual trauma reaction. All four of us were just ripped to shreds. And it took, I think, all of us a long time to process really what happened at that point. And for me, it was, it turned out in the end to be just this overarching feeling of this is why people don't talk about it, because you've got people out there that go either get sober or like you're a loser. And I don't want to not say that sobriety isn't, the best way or that people don't need it. But what I'm telling you here is that I have a majority of my clients that struggle with substance use and addiction tell me, and they don't tell their therapist for that reason, because they don't want the therapist to say, hey, I'm not going to work with you. Or they don't want the therapist to say, well, you have to get sober or else. And that is not possible for people at certain times. And Neil is a huge testament to that. Like there were times in his life, it just wasn't the right time. He wasn't ready. He would have been pushed into it and then would have failed. And then it's just like OCD treatment. You can't push people into doing ERP. They have to be ready. They have to be at a certain time. And so my point in telling that story is this, like, it's time for us to reevaluate our judgment about people who live with addiction. Because when most people think about addicts, they think about junkies and they think about, drunks that are uncontrollable and they make everybody's lives miserable. Let me tell you something. Like I'm getting all fired up. I'm probably red. Let me tell you something. You may suffer from an addiction and you just don't know it. It might be exercise. It might be shopping. It might be food. It might be a lot of things. Lots of people around you suffer with it. They don't even know it, or they're hiding it from you. It's time for us to get our judgments in check and start meeting people with addiction with compassion and empathy and support and helping them to make decisions without feeling like they're making the wrong ones.
Boom. Yeah, no, I mean, but and just to touch on that now, I mean, I can say more about this. I could probably talk about this for hours, but the biggest piece is that like shame doesn't help anybody. Shame and guilt don't help anybody. And telling people that they're wrong
Hallelujah.
doesn't help anybody. So, I mean, even with my friends, and I've had to set up strict boundaries with them that like, I don't want to drink, but when they ask me about like, oh, do you feel comfortable or does this make you uncomfortable? That like makes me want to drink more because it's like I feel like maybe it's just me, but I feel like most people have like this little infant in their brain, like that rebellious, raspy voice teenager who's like, screw you, you told me I can't do something. I'm going to do that thing 10 times as hard, and I can't control it, but I've had to set up strict boundaries and be like, just don't talk about it. Like, don't ask me about it. I will, and I've made a promise to them, like I will absolutely reach out and tell you if I'm struggling because I'm sure that day will come. I know it seems all like peaches, rainbows right now, and right now it is, but I also don't want to like make you guys think like, oh, like everything's going to be fine forever now. Cause like, that's not how life is. And at some point I'm going to want to drink really badly again. And I'm going to have to reach out. And I go to 5 SMART meetings a week and I don't even want to drink, but I do it because I love it. And I need to keep my like sober network strong, So.
Yeah. Well, and I want you to share with people what the SMART meetings are, but I also, Michelle asked a great question. How can a therapist help you feel more comfortable sharing about the substance use? So this is a really good question, Michelle. Thank you so much. When I said earlier that people will tell me as a peer support specialist and they won't tell their therapist because it is widely known in the OCD community, I think that this is changing a little bit, and especially with the creation of the Foglia Family Center for Patrick. It's widely known and been accepted that if people are struggling with addiction or substance use, a therapist can be like, I'm not working with you. So clients are not going to risk. You find like you live with OCD for an average of 12 to 16 years before you can find the correct treatment. And then you find the correct treatment and find out if you tell your therapist you drink every day, they could be like, I'm not going to treat you. They're like, hell no, I'm not telling them. Or I'm not telling them. And I'm not telling them I'm smoking weed every day or that I'm watching porn and, masturbating like 5 to 10 times a day. They're not going to do that because they cannot risk losing the ability to get that treatment. And so not that it maybe becomes an ethical issue for the treatment aspect, but that's something we really need to take into consideration because let's think about it this way. People start with those behaviors because they're struggling for 12 years having no idea they have OCD. If you're worried all day, every day, you're going to turn into a pedophile or you're going to murder your family because you have these intrusive thoughts. You don't know what's going on. You don't know how to ask for help. What are you going to do? You're going to get drunk. You're going to get pills. You're going to have sex. You're going to do anything to take your mind off of it. So people are not willing to take the risk and they won't be honest with therapists when they finally get there. So this is a big issue in our community that we as a community need to address together. We need therapists at the table. We need people who with lived experience at the table. And we need to come up with a plan because it's not working right now.
Well, and I think the most difficult thing about this is that it's not just in our community. It's been widely, it's been the basis of treatment forever to treat things separately. Like you take care of the addiction before you take care of the OCD. Or you take care of the OCD.
You're right.
Or you take care of the addiction, right? Like everybody wants to separate these things like they're not super enmeshed. And that's just like how the world of social work and psychology and counseling has been forever because that's what they thought worked forever, but it just doesn't. The things need to be treated concurrently. And any expert who knows anything will tell you that these days because they're feeding on each other. They have to be taken care of together. They can't be taken care of separately. They just can't.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of experts out there in OCD that just still hold the view that I'm not treating you if you're engaging in alcohol every day. And that's just,
well, and because
I'm going to say it's like a lot of times it's just cruel because that person developed that coping skill because of how much they're suffering. And the other thing, okay, let's just get real. Ready? The other thing are residential treatment centers. Thank goodness for Patrick's residential treatment. When you tell somebody you have to be sober for 30 or 60 days in order to come into our treatment facility, you're risking that person dying. Like we just have to be honest. Like if you're going to say if someone is shooting heroin and they're like, you can't come into our facility. Are you there? You seem to be freezing. Are you there?
You seem to be freezing.
Oh, okay.
I'm here.
Okay. Anyway, I
thought you were freezing.
Look at Lori. Yes, Lori, you get it. This is a huge amount of hidden elements of crossover mental health and addiction. Yes. Yeah, Lori treats OCD and addiction. So glad she's here. But anyway, the prime example would be somebody who shoots heroin, and that is their escape, and that is their addiction. And they are told they cannot come to a treatment facility for 30 or 60 days unless they're clean. Okay. What are they going to do? Stop doing heroin and get attacked by intrusive thoughts because it's the only thing that kept them sane. And then they don't do heroin for 2 weeks and then they can't handle it. And then they shoot up and they die. Like that's the crucial issue we have right there. And that's where Patrick and Lori and many people who are just really dedicated to the co-occurring treatment of both of these things, people should not be left in the shadows just because they're addicts. And I think that's the biggest stigma is, well, they're addicts and they're worthless. And I can't. Then basically like, Neil, you and I are worthless. I'm just bringing that to light, like for people to see it face to face. Like if that's how people feel about addicts, you're looking at two people that are worthless.
Yeah, that's true. But I think another important thing to touch on too is that like the reason why, or one of the reasons why, treatment seems so scary, or that people are turned away, or all those things, is that AA has monopolized the game of treatment for forever. Like it's AA and NA or nothing. Like you have no other options. You either do the 12 steps or like you're never going to be sober.
So basically non-evidence based.
Which,
you know,
but I do not have a bad word in my mouth about AA, and I know that I've spoken before about it, and I've had some negative experiences personally. But if it works for you, I want you to go to 8 AA meetings a week.
100%. But it should not be the only path.
But the issue is that in most treatment centers in America, AA has pumped so much money into so many programs that it is the only thing that is preached. And which is very, very problematic. Anything that is the one thing that is preached is problematic, even if it's a great thing. And AA is great. It works for hundreds of thousands of millions of people a year, and it changes their lives. And that is unprecedentedly amazing. But there are like a billion other treatment programs and like wellness programs that you can go to help your sobriety. I go to SMART, which is
tell us about SMART.
Which is self-management and recovery training. Yes, I'm trained to be a SMART facilitator, so I should know that. But so it's all evidence-based. It's all CBT and ACT practices, and it's just about like controlling any negative or unhealthy thing that you have in your life. It's not targeted towards drugs or alcohol. Most people in my group are, addicts in that term, but there's no like labeling. We don't call each other alcoholics or addicts. It's not something, person first language, right? Like I'm Neil Hemmer. I'm a person who struggles with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Like, right. That's what I say when I tell you about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you want to know about, right. It's not the first thing I tell you. It's never the first thing I say, but, and it's just really great because it teaches you life skills and it teaches you things and how to help control your thoughts, help control your behaviors.
Yeah.
Notice how the thoughts and the behaviors are connected. Like notice your triggers, although like trigger identification, value teaching, cost benefit analyses, like all those things. We go through a skill every single group. It's changed my life. I love it. That's actually one of the reasons why I went into residential. They are an abstinence-based program, right? They want you to eventually get to that, but it's really not the highlight.
You don't get shamed if you relapse. And you get your coin ripped away from you, and you're like, the last 13 years of sobriety means nothing now.
Yeah, no, part of it is, and part of the opening speech for facilitators is that if you relapse, get to a meeting immediately. And your sober time is not erased. That's their big thing, is that no, even if you lapse, that's totally fine. There's a difference between a lapse and a relapse. If I have one drink, I've lapsed. If I go right back to drinking a whole bottle of whiskey, that's a relapse. But yeah, and I think the whole, your sober time isn't erased is everything. Because I don't want all of a sudden, it's my 4 months today, guys. I don't want I slip up and all of a sudden none of this time on anything. To me, that's super problematic. But there's refuge recovery, there's smart recovery, there's blah 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 blah, a billion other programs. But I think that it's really important that those programs are also pushed in residential treatment facilities, in the in newsletters, in the media, right? Yeah. And
so let's wrap up here.
We're good.
What I want to say in all of this, and especially just to piggyback over what you're saying, is that supporting people with addiction, understanding addiction starts with you. If you're watching this video, it starts with you. And if in our country, in America right now, a lot of people are having to look at their belief systems, their core beliefs, how they think about things, their bias, how things are set up systemically, right?
True.
Alcoholism, addiction, drug addiction, these things are systematically set up for us to be biased. They're set up for those of us to think, I am better than this person because I don't struggle with this. Yeah. In that, what happens is a slew of people who are falling under this bubble of addiction, including myself, including people who are addicted to things like porn, addicted to sex, addicted to shopping, addicted to things that they can exercise, which is so awful because it's so acceptable, but yet people are suffering under the guise that it's not an addiction. Yeah. so many people are living with this. And what happens is the change that it's going to take is to start with us abolishing whatever core beliefs you have about addiction. Because making broad, brash statements about what addicts are, even if you've had a bad experience with someone with addiction. Okay, yes, we all have bad experiences with things. Like we had an experience when you were here, in Gamechangers right before you went into residential. I'm not going to gauge my my interactions with every person who struggles with alcoholism based on you, because that's not how life works. But I would challenge anybody who's watching today to really, if you feel offended by something that we've said, because he and I are both really passionate about this. If you feel offended, take a look at what your core beliefs are about addiction, about substance use, and try to work from there. Where did those come from and why? Is it because you've had an experience? Is that what you were taught? Is it society has taught you? What is it? And start to think about whether or not you can change that, because people are struggling in silence because they're scared of what you think of them. They're scared of what I think of them. They're scared of what a lot of people think of them. So what we really need to do is, like Brene Brown says, shame can't live in the light. We got to bring this topic to light. We've got to start shining a light so we can all see that people who are struggling aren't bad. They aren't monsters. They aren't what most people's core beliefs are. So those are my final words. Neil, what's yours?
I don't know how to follow that up.
I love putting you on the spot.
All right, bye. Mic drop and shut the broadcast off. I don't know. No, I really appreciate you having me on here, and I appreciate you letting me tell my story. This was such a struggle for such a long time for me, and it will continue to be an ongoing and everlasting battle, which I'm not only terrified of, but super excited about, because I'm headstrong and I like this stuff. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that the most important thing, even if it seems totally irrational, is listen to the people struggling. Listen to the people abusing drugs and alcohol. And I know that that's super hard, because it seems like we're kind of out of our minds or still struggling or blah, blah, blah. So you're like, well, I know what's best. No, you don't. I do. I know what's best because it's my body and it's my life and it's my decision making. So, I didn't go to residential for a long time when people were telling me, hey man, you might want to look into this, because I wasn't ready. And like Christy said before, I would have failed. And I wouldn't have just failed. I would have failed fantastically. I would have failed miserably with fireworks and shit. It would have been awesome. But I had to wait till I was ready and all the stars aligned for me to go. And for me to stop. And when I say something makes me feel awkward, even if it is nonsensical to you, right? It makes me feel uncomfortable. And then that's that. And I feel like that's such a simple piece of advice, but that's the only thing I have. So
I love it. I'm so glad you brought that up. And I think just to summarize that beautifully is listen and believe the person.
Yeah.
Not the addiction. Listen to the person, not the addiction. So with that, I'm going to close out. Neil, love you. Neil, I call him my son, even though I didn't birth him.
Love you too, Mom.
So much appreciate you sharing your story. I just feel like this is your place in advocacy, and I'm so excited to see how that flourishes. Thank you for all that you do, not only for Gamechangers, but in my life and Sean's life. We love you.
I love you guys. Thank you.
And thank you all for being here, and thank you for your comments. I'll go back through them and just your engagement. This is such an important topic, and I really appreciate that you took the time to invest in this as well. And I hope that moving forward, we can have more fireside chats about this, because OCD Gamechangers is committed to individuals who live with both OCD and addiction, anxiety, and depression, anything that we can do to really identify with the community, help them be seen, help to believe them, and help walk alongside them toward recovery without judgment. So we will see you on Monday at Maverick Mondays with Molly and Morgan of Not Alone Notes. Woo!
Yeah.
And also, oh my God, look, I just got this in the mail. We're going to talk about this, so that'll be excited. So we'll see you Monday afternoon. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.